Indian official history of 1971 wars, totally false claim, exaggerating the Pakistani direction of attack of the 23 Division, which was a lucky fluke. Instead, the Indian official history attributed it to the result of brilliant probing of Pakistan's 23 Division. This is an extract from the book Two Operational Failures in Defense and Offense, Pakistan Army's 23 Division and Indian Army's 10 Division in 1971 War, an operational and tactical analysis. This is the map to illustrate the Battle of Cham 1971. The Battle of Cham, fought in December 1971, remained this scribe's lifelong obsession starting from 1974, when this scribe, as a 13-year-old, read about the battle in Fazl Mukim Khan's book on 1971 war. In 1979, Colonel Said's book on the battle, published in 1973, was much captivating and engaging, and I read and reread it many times since 1979, and to date am again and again reading and rereading it. Said was also my father's friend and associate in the army. On being commissioned in 11th Cavalry FF and joining the regiment at Kharian on 27th March 1983, this battle became part of my being because 11th Cavalry had fought in the battle, and the veterans who fought the battle still in 1983, 12 years later, carried the trauma of that battle. Now, this cannot be explained by any military historian. This trauma about which I am talking, it simply cannot be described by any book or any military historian. You have to talk to the veterans to understand and feel it. And this trauma, of course, was conveniently whitewashed by everybody, including 11 cavalry officers who were in command. There was a reason. A transformation took place as I conversed with Dafadar Bashir, whose tank had been hit at Mandiala on the first day of the battle. He was from the Bravo Squadron. There was a sea of difference between what Fazl Mukim and Saeed narrated and what Bashir and many others who actually fought the battle narrated. Serious discrepancies which persist till to date in books published till 2024. My dear Squadron Commander, 11th Cavalry, Major Iftikhar's tank was hit on the first day of the battle, and I spent a great amount of time learning from Major Iftikhar's experience in 1983-85. In 1985, I met Colonel Salman Akhtar, who I discovered was also a relative by intermarriage and whose tank was also hit on the second day of battle at Mandiala. In 1986 late, I met a doctor who was also a veteran of Cham battle and narrated in detail his horrifying experiences of treating casualties of the battle. In 1999, this scribe wrote his first article on the battle for the Citadel Journal of Command and Staff College Quetta, which however did not publish it. This article was published in Defense Journal Pakistan in September 1999. At this stage in time, this scribe's level of comprehension of the battle did not extend beyond hero worship, thus the article was not the whole truth. Now, I came across a totally false claim in the Indian official history of 1971. Indian official history of 1971 falsely claimed, I repeat, Indian official history of 1971 war falsely claimed that Pakistan's 23 Division commander, through constant probing, had discovered that only a dummy minefield existed in front of 5 Assam position. Factually, this is absolute, pure and unadulterated nonsense, which Indian history, the official history, claimed. Now, painting the enemy as far more bold and intelligent than he actually was, a totally false claim of Indian official history, that Pakistan's 23 Division commander, through constant probing, had discovered that only a dummy minefield existed in front of the 5 Assam position. Now let's read the nonsense claim of the Indian official history. And here the Indian official history, the exact page says, at 15:30 hours on 6 December, through consistent probing, the Pakistani commander had by then discovered that only a dummy minefield existed in front of the 5 Assam position. Unquote. Absolute nonsense. Now, I also quoted this instance in my book Clausewitz Summarized with examples from military history, and in addition in my book on 23 Division and 10 Division failures in the 71 war. Now, Major General Iftikhar Khan Janjua was forced to change the direction of attack, as his staff pointed out, and this was clearly published in the 1973 official history, rather officially approved account of the Battle of Cham by the Jivan of the 23 Division, Battle of Cham, published by the Army Education Press and distributed to all units. Now, General Iftikhar changed the direction of his attack because his staff pointed out, as Saeed narrated in his book, that his planned location to start the attack could not be reached in one night. There was no constant probing, as Indian official history claims, totally false and nonsense. Iftikhar thus was forced to attack halfway from Cham to Chak Pandit. Hence, the Indian official history claim that Iftikhar discovered a gap is absolute nonsense and false. As you can see, I quoted this example in my book on Clausewitz, as you can see on page 156, Clausewitz summarized with examples from military history. Now, as you can see, this was the actual direction of General Iftikhar's attack. But why? Why this direction? Now, the Pakistani 1973 account by Saeed, the Jivan of the division, clearly explains why. There is no false and nonsense claim that there was constant probing. This is a fiction conjured by the Indian official history. Shocking, you know. Now, this is chapter 7 of my book on the operational failures of the 23 and 10 Division. Pakistani tank attack from south on 6 December 1971. 5th December saw 23 Division miserably failing at Mandiala complex because General Iftikhar and his staff failed to appreciate the crucial significance of Mandiala South, which 23 Division could have captured on night 4th-5th December 1971. The greatest character attribute of General Iftikhar was inexhaustible resolution and persistence, while his failure opposite Mandiala was more due to his own mental blocks and his staff's failure to track and control the division's lower formation 66th Brigade, being the most notoriously cowardly led brigade, rather than enemy resistance. Iftikhar decided to regroup and attack from the south. This was the most brilliant decision of General Iftikhar. But to brilliance, we must add a factor known as chance or luck. How the direction of attack was chosen. Many histories, most significant being Indian official history of 1971 war, including Prawal, etc., falsely claim that A minefield gap between Jhanda and Barsala had been discovered by Pakistan's 23 Division. This was an absolutely false claim, as proven by the most credible Pakistani account written by Colonel Said of 23 Division, who was actually the GSO-1 of 23 Division in the war. Said stated in his book, published by the Pakistan Army Education Press in 1973 and distributed to all units, Said thus stated that General Iftikhar wanted to attack from the direction of far south, not the direction which actually was adopted. Actually, that is the new Pakistani attack thrust originating from the area between Dhaus Serali and Barila, which was south. Now, this is chapter 6 of Said's book, in which he describes the new plan was to pull out the bulk of armor from the present location of Kamali Chapad, concentrated overnight between Dhaus Serali and Barila in the south under 2 Armored Brigade, and roll the salient from south to north on 6 December, not west to east as was actually done. So, Said clarifies that the actual direction was from Dhaus Serali and Barila, which was in the far south. Now, why the direction was changed? Said again describes why. Not because of any gap or probing. Said states in the same chapter, the same page, when it was pointed out to the general that the hook was too long to cover in one night, he decided to launch the armored brigade from Bakan with Chak Pandit as its objective, the east to west actual, because of which the 23 Division went through the gap. So this was pure chance, a lucky fluke. Granted that General Iftikhar was the most brilliant Pakistani operational commander produced in history, but the direction of attack was changed by pure chance and fluke, because Said and the staff pointed out that the actual direction which General Iftikhar wanted was too difficult to reach logistically. So, simply for logistic reasons, the time and space reasons, the direction was changed. As you can see, Major General Iftikhar's original plan of attack to launch 2nd Armored Brigade on 6 December 1971, as you can see clearly, this was the actual plan. This is Barilla, this is Dhaus Serali. The actual direction was this. It is very clear, clearly marked on the map for the layman reader and for the dumb officer who wrote the Indian official history. Absolute nonsense. Now, as stated when the staff pointed out that the direction was too long and it was difficult to reach Barila area in one night, General Iftikhar changed the direction, and the new direction was as depicted on this map. Major General Iftikhar's amended plan of attack to launch 2 Armored Brigade on 6 December. Now he changes the direction of attack, not because of any constant probing and discovery of the gap. Absolute nonsense, as the Indian official history claims. Absolute nonsense. Ridiculous, claims. And I don't know how official histories make such nonsense claims. The officer who wrote this or those who edited this history need to be kicked, at least intellectually. As you can see, this is how the direction was changed. One may infer that Pakistani breakthrough on 6 December was achieved by fluke. And this happens in history. It is not to belittle General Iftikhar or downgrade his achievement, but it is just to plainly narrate military history. Because if 2 Armored Brigade had launched the attack from the south, as General Iftikhar originally intended, Indian dislocation, which led to the Indian decision to withdraw 191 Brigade east of Tavi River, would have been far more limited, and Indians could have reinforced its troops opposite 2 Armored Brigade with tanks. So, this is to simplify and clarify a very important part of the Battle of Chum, the armored brigade attack, which was falsely distorted by the Indian official history, of course, to the favor of Pakistan army, but we don't need favors. We need to read military history as it happened. So I hope that this small podcast will clarify these errors.